Welcome to Wellness Wednesday with the Department of Parks and Recreation, Prince George's County. This is your home each week to stay healthy and motivated on your path to wellness. Let's live more, play more indoors.
Good day, my name is Monife and I'm here with the Maryland Department of Parks and Recreation to share with you a recipe, homemade spinach pies. So we're going to start by preheating just on the stove. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to our pan and let that heat up. I've already washed a bag, or you can get a bunch of fresh spinach. You want to wash it and drain it as much as possible. I'm going to dice up 2 or 3 tablespoons of fresh onion. For people that don't like onion, I get it, but when it cooks up and when it mixes up in food, you really can't taste it. It adds a nice flavor. So I'm just going to dice up the onions as small as possible because, again, they're going to cook with the spinach. Okay, the other ingredients that we have are 3 garlic cloves, fresh garlic cloves. And I'm going to use my favorite utensil in the kitchen for those, which is my garlic press. So once the oil heats up, you want to just kind of move it around so that it spreads evenly throughout our pan, and we'll start by crushing the garlic. So we can do one at a time. I always have a knife nearby because what I do is just scrape the fresh garlic into the pan one at a time. Sometimes I like to take the skin out so that you get more of the juices from the garlic. So we're going to press the second one in there. And you want the garlic to cook, but you don't want it to burn, so you got to be real careful. I do have the temperature, actually I have it on high so it can cook fairly quickly. And so this recipe is really great, especially if you have kids that don't like vegetables. It's a good way to get your kids to eat some fresh spinach in a fun pie. So you use a spatula and just kind of mix the garlic around in the pan. And as it cooks, we're going to add the fresh spinach. So it could probably cook a little bit more, but it's okay because it's going to cook regardless. We just don't want it to burn. So we're going to add the fresh spinach. Again, it's been washed and drained as much as possible. And spinach cooks down very quickly, so it looks like we have a lot. But what I'm going to do is just put it all in the pan. I'm going to add, well, most of it, as much as will fit. And then we're going to add the onions, the fresh cut onions on top, so that can cook down with it. And then I usually like to cover it for 2 or 3 minutes. You know, that's going to help it cook down a little bit faster. If, you know, you want to mix it around, as it cooks down, you want to use a spatula and mix it so the bottom doesn't burn. So I'm going to push pause, come back in about 2 minutes and show you what I mean by that. Okay, so you can see how quickly it's cooked down. So we're just going to mix it around so that garlic on the bottom and the onions and everything just spreads throughout the pan. And then I did have a little bit more spinach in my bowl, so I split it down the middle. I add the rest of my spinach right down the middle. And again, this is so it doesn't burn and so that it cooks fairly evenly. And I take the cooked spinach on the side and just kind of put it on top of the spinach that I've just recently added. And again, it's maybe 2-3 minutes and it cooks down. I'm going to make sure those onions are all mixed up in there. And then we're going to season the spinach and then let it cool down somewhat so that we can make the spinach pies. Now the key to the successful spinach pie is all this moisture has to come out of the pan. So we're going to press the moisture out and pour this down the drain. But try to keep the onions, try to keep the seasoning. So I'm going to do that now. Just kind of press some of the moisture out. It's still cooking down, but again, it's very important that as it cooks, you want to get the moisture out, okay? And you just use a spatula and you press it, okay? I'm going to push pause before we season the spinach and get the pie bread ready. Okay, so we're going to season the spinach. As you can see, I've drained the moisture out. We're going to use a little bit of seasoning salt, a little bit of black pepper. You can never have too much black pepper. It's really good for you. And I like to use a little bit of cayenne just to give it a little kick. Okay, this top is a little hot. And we're going to just mix it in. And then make sure it sits to the side so that it can cool a little bit. Okay? Mix that in and let it just sit. And while that's sitting, any generic brand of croissant rolls, see, you gotta find where to bust the package. Perfect. And then sit it to the side. We have half here and the other half. And the easiest shape to make these spinach pies in with this dough is going to be triangles. So we're going to roll it out, and 4 triangles or maybe 4.5 pieces will make the top, and then we'll make the bottom. So you take the triangle that it comes in and just gently stretch it out, because we want it to we want our pies to be as large as possible, so gently stretch it out. We're going to place it on some parchment paper on a cooking sheet. And then, because we're looking for triangles, you can use a knife and just slice off the extra. And this may make a 5th one, okay? So we'll take, again, the triangle, stretch it out as much as possible. Be careful. Okay, this is Monife Marshall with the Maryland Department of Parks and Recreation, just finishing up the recipe for the spinach pies. To recap, what we've done is washed and dried fresh spinach. We've sauteed it with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, fresh pressed garlic, and 2 tablespoons of diced onions. We've cooked it down. We've drained the moisture out of it. That's very important. We've seasoned it with seasonal, black pepper, and cayenne. And then once it cools down, you want to drain it again just to get all the moisture out, okay? So that's the first step, is to get the spinach. You can set it aside. We have croissant rolls. Any brand is fine. And we've basically just cut them into triangles. And then with the excess dough, we've put it to the side, because it doesn't really matter the shape. Again, the main thing is to have nice, as big as you can get the triangles for the pies. We're going to cut off any excess, because that excess is going to be used to make maybe an additional smaller pie, okay? So what we do, I'm going to finish up prepping these. We layer the bread, put the fresh spinach on top, and then I'm using a plant-based cheese, but you can cut the cheese into the slice, and the cheese will go on top of the spinach, and then we'll cover it up and see what it looks like. So I'll be right back with that. Okay, so here we have the croissant bread with the pies, and then again, we're going to cut the cheese just to cover it. The shape doesn't really matter, because the cheese is going to melt inside. And then the key is, with the other half of the dough, is to, again, stretch it out. And then carefully, without any holes, because if we have holes in it, it's going to bust. And just cover it up with the other side. And again, stretch it, because we're going to use the extra dough to cover the extra pies that we've made. And then just seal the edges. That's the most important part. I'm going to preheat the oven for 375, and we're going to bake these for about 18 to 20 minutes. And I'll come back once they come out the oven so we can look at our final spinach pies. Okay, here we have it, our final spinach pies. They're delicious, and again, you can have them for breakfast, you can have them as an appetizer, or just a great way to get your kids to eat spinach. So if you love them, if you'd like to try them, very good. Enjoy and have a wonderful day.